All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise, all the honor, and all the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakakwadash, and of course, as always, double honors to our apostles and our elders that rule well at Great Millstone. And salutations to all you sincere Akim that are preaching this word in all truth and sincerity. Shalom to you few Akwathium, Wa, Akim, that believe in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. This is the brother Zakaria out of the Modesto, California Hebrew Israelites camp. And today's current date is April 1st. All right, it is 1 in the morning, April 1st. Okay, and later on tonight, all right, or later on in the day, because we're approaching the morning of April 1st, Wednesday, 2026. Okay, and roughly about, let's say about 18, 19 hours from now, okay, when the sun goes down after it rises Wednesday night, we will be in the Passover. And I was out and about right now, fueling up my car because the morning after we keep the Passover, that very next morning I got to head to work. And I'm trying to keep, that Sabbath, these Sabbaths, as holy as possible. Keep them as righteous as possible, especially when the Sabbath falls under a high holy day, and the Passover being, the highest holy day for us Hebrew Israelites. And it was a trip because, as I stated, I went to the nearest gas station to fuel up, get fuel. All right, because I have to go to work, that morning after the Passover. I got to head right out. And I had seen this news paper, and I'll show it to you right now. All right, here it is. It's titled The Modesto Bee. And it's going into, how if you don't stop at a red light, you can be fined. Okay, which is a cautionary thing. Now, I was just looking at the front, but then the Spirit had me flip it over to the back. And this is what was on the back. Okay, right there. I just seen when I flipped it over, I had seen what looks like the Torah. Okay. And I was like, what language is that? Because I was just glancing at it. Mind you, I'm not zooming in like I am now. And it, triggered me to look. And then I read, and it says Passover in blue. A week-long festival this evening marks the beginning of Passover, one of Judaism's most sacred holidays, marking the Israelites' departure from ancient Egypt. And in all the years I've been in the truth, which isn't very long, a decade, 12 years, they never did this. All right, they never published, anything like this. Okay, and what's a trip is those so-called Jews, all right, Israelis that inhabit our land as of right now, they're keeping the Passover according to the lunar calendar like we do. And brothers are talking about it, and then me and the brother that I'm in the camp with, we, kind of spoke on it amongst each other. Now, it says, this evening marks the beginning of Passover, one of Judaism's most sacred holidays. This has nothing to do with Judaism. Okay, Judaism is a farce religion, okay, that was forged by these devils, man, by these Edomites. And those people in our land today that call themselves Israelis, they are Amalekites, a tribe of Esau, of the Edomites, and that tribe is called Amalek. Okay? And they don't call themselves Israelites. Okay, they call themselves Jewish or Israelis. All right? And I just found it, very, how would I say it? Passionate. I was passionate about this because this is our identity. This is who we are. This is our high holy day. And it has nothing to do with religion. Okay? This has to do with our heritage. This is who we are as a people, according to our bloodline. Okay, this has nothing to do with, although it is spiritual, it's not something that you could just cling to spiritually. All right, you have to first and foremost be an Israelite physically. Okay, according to your bloodline, according to the seed of your father. All right? And, it's trippy that they're keeping the Passover on the same day. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 33 and verse 9. It says, some of them hath he made high days, and all of them, and some of them that he made ordinary days. This is dealing with, times and seasons. Of course, high days, which are, Israelite holy days. Not holidays, but holy days. Okay? Some of those days that are dictated by the moon and the celestial bodies, he hallowed them, sanctified them, and declared that when a certain moon phase comes, okay, which there's 12 months in the Israelite calendar, all right, and that's how we dictate the month, okay, according to the phase of the moon. Because if you read in Genesis, it tells you in the beginning everything was dark. Everything was darkness. Okay? So before the sun, the stars, the moon were lit up, were, how would you say it, illuminated, okay, before they were given that reason to shine, everything was darkness. So then those ordinances came about as a clock for time, seasons, and these holy days. Okay, it says some of them hath he made high days, and all of them. And some of them hath he made ordinary days. When you read the scriptures, there's no such thing as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There is no such thing. Those things came about by the Greeks and the Romans, which are Edomites. Okay, which Tuesday has to do with, their months, July. Just to throw one out there, July goes back to what, Julius. Tuesday, I believe, goes back to the Roman god of war, which is Mars, you know. So there is high holy days in the Passover being a specific one that we're talking about right now. And if not, which of course it's the highest of holy days. Okay. This was us being, you know, delivered from Egypt. Okay, we sprinkled the blood of the lamb over the doorposts of our homes so the death angel would pass over and not come in and harm us. Okay, we would eat the Passover lamb and drink the wine. All right, which Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, he kept the Passover with his disciples and told them, okay, how to keep the Passover, which we knew, but I mean, you know, he broke it down to them even more. And he said, look, he said, eat of this bread, all right, which we eat unleavened bread for that weekly feast. Okay. And he said, drink of this blood, drink of the wine, which is a representation of my blood. Because Yahweh Shai is our sacrifice, all right, of the Passover. He is our Passover lamb. He bought us back. Okay, saved us from judgment of the law, which is sin. Okay. It says, in all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge, the Lord had divided them and made their ways diverse. Talking about mankind, all right, the nations made us all diverse, different. It says some of them have he blessed and exalted, some of them he sanctified and set near himself, which is the Israelites. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He blessed and exalted us, sanctified us, and set them near himself. Okay, we're a peculiar people, a treasure to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Now, the reason why we're not, you know, exalted on the earth as of right now is because we're still fulfilling captivity, our punishment. Okay, but what's going on right now, what you see taking place, okay, these so-called Jews, these Edomites being you know, persecuted, being called out for their atrocities. Okay, the U.S. military getting dogged out there in the Middle East. Those so-called Jews in our land getting bombed. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is undoing our captivity. And something major is something major is going to happen. Whether it's tonight of the Passover or the days following. Because this is not a Passover like any other Passover we had before. We're approaching the end, man. And when I say the end of Esau, the so-called white man's system. Okay? We never, and I can't even recall the elders and apostles talking about it, where Amalek, the so-called Jew, and our elders and their elders kept a Passover the same time. Okay, because usually they'll keep it a month before or a month after, you know, when you're supposed to keep it, which is according to the moon. Now, the scriptures do say that if, you know, there's a situation that does happen where you can't keep it, you know, that time, okay, according to the moon, according to when it actually is supposed to be, because we were all supposed to travel to Jerusalem to keep it. Okay, but we don't have that ability to go out there and keep the Passover. Plus, those devils occupy our land. Okay, so the scriptures say that you can keep it a month after, right? So there is accounts where you could say, oh, well, they keep it around the same time, a month after, a month before. But it's not the same, all right, for them to keep it the same day we are. Okay? It says, but some of them had he cursed and brought low and turned out of their places. All right, the other nations, starting with Esau, the so-called white man, has he cursed. Okay, and brought them low. All right, Esau, the so-called white man, starting with the so-called Jew, they are a very low, scum, dirtbag people. All right, they are the biggest welfare cases on the planet. There's a guy that's going around, giving a public interviews of these so-called Jews, and he's going around asking them, "What do you do for work?" And then a few of them will say, "Oh, I don't work." And then he asks them, "Well, how do you support yourself?" And then the damn rat, the so-called Jew, will be like, "Oh, my wife works." And they're like, "Well, what does your wife do?" And then they can't say. And then they want to call out, "Oh, they're being harassed." It's well known, man, that the so-called Jew is the biggest welfare case on the planet. And it's not far-fetched that this man's kingdom is crumbling because the majority of people on welfare, not according to Esau's bullshit statistics and, percentages he gives you online, okay, but the majority of them are Edomites. The majority of people on welfare, these assistance programs, committing money crimes, thefts, laundering, embezzlements, are Edomites, man. Okay, how do you think these senators and mayors and governors live? They're living off of your money, man. They're living off of the taxes that are supposed to go back in the infrastructure of this place, but they're using on themselves, taking trips, buying mansions, okay, having a kick-ass time. All right, but yeah, they're the biggest welfare cases on the earth. They're low. Okay, they got fucking in their synagogues, they got tunnels where they're kidnapping children and taking them and doing all kinds of weirdo things in those catacombs. All right. It says, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him, to render to them as liketh him best. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai controls everything. Okay, he created the Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, to be his chosen people, a people that he loves, cares about. He blessed in all aspects of life. Okay, created you to be his children. And then you got the other nations, starting with the Edomites, that he hates. All right, he hates you so-called white people. This is in the New Testament. This is Romans chapter 9, verse 13. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Okay, this is New Testament. You can't get around it. You can't say, oh, well, That was back then, you know. Oh, that's not in the New Testament. No, it is in the New Testament. Meaning the Heavenly Father still feels the same way about Esau and his lineage, the Edomites. Okay? Can't get around it, man. It says good is set against evil and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner and the sinner against the godly. All right? Just like you got yin and yang. Okay, you got polar opposites, you got duality. Okay, good is set against evil. And the good are the Israelites, God's chosen people. Okay, the evil is a so-called white man, the Edomites, starting with their head tribe, which is Amalek. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. Right. Now I'm going to get this, I'm going to close it. I want to say it's Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. Yep, this is Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty. This is him talking, this is the scriptures. Okay, John the Revelator wrote down this revelation, okay, the understanding of how the Heavenly Father feels towards his people. And it says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty. The real Israelites are in poverty, going through all types of tribulations, trying to work things out and going through rough times. It says, but thou art rich. You can't be an oxymoron and say, oh, well, it says you're in poverty, but you're rich. Okay, we're rich because we're going to receive the kingdom. Okay? We're rich because we've been adopted to be the sons of living power. Okay, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So what that means is we're joined heirs with the Messiah. Okay? It says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. You see, and what are those so-called Jews, those rats? Where do they worship? They worship in synagogues, man. Here it is, you got them rats that worship, practice Judaism. Okay, they don't practice Christianity or, simply read the scriptures and practice out of that. Not trying to say that we partnering up with no Christians, man, because we're not. We keep the law, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability, and we prophesy and bring out the words of the scriptures. Okay, we are not a religious group. Once again, this is our heritage. This is who we are as a people. All right. So you got them so-called Jews that mainly read and practice out of the Talmud. Okay. And they worship in synagogues. Then you got the Ishmaelites, the Arabs, Palestinians, and Islamic people, and they worship out of mosques. Okay. You don't see, you got out here, you got Israelites going to churches. But when you hear the word synagogue or you see a place that says synagogue, all right, 9 times out of 10, it's a so-called Jewish building. All right. So yes, this scripture is twofold. Okay, but in this tense, these people that are in our land, they say they are Jews. They say that they're God's chosen people, but they are not. They are the synagogue, which the word synagogue means chief house. Okay, it says they are the synagogue of Satan. All right, they're the wicked, they're evil. Okay, good is said against evil, man. We're out here declaring the truth, and they're out there lying to the world. All right, lying, being a liar, is evil. Okay, that's why the scriptures say lying is a sin. That all liars are going to partake in the lake that burneth with fire. Okay? So yeah, something big is about ready to happen. Adawan Ratasa, later on in the day, something major happens. Okay, because remember when the Lord delivered the Israelites out of ancient Egypt, okay, he smote Egypt with terrible plagues. He killed the firstborn of the Egyptians. The scriptures say in Esdras that the Lord is going to smite Egypt again with plagues as before. That's talking about now. All right. The scriptures say it's no longer going to be talked about the Lord liveth that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord liveth that brought the children of Israel out of the land of the north, which we're right now in the land of the north, which is North America. All right, we are those people, man. And if you can't see it in 2026, hey, man, chances are you're never going to see it until the Lord returns and reveals himself to you and destroys you, man. So with that, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Arakah Kodash. And of course, as always, double honors to our apostles and our elders that rule well at Great Millstone. Until next time, Shalom.